The town of Ravenswood was cloaked in fear, its streets alive with whispers of a vengeful spirit. Among the countless tales told in hushed tones, none were as terrifying as the legend of Bloody Mary. They said her name carried power, that invoking it meant inviting doom. Long ago, Mary Worthington lived as a healer on the outskirts of Ravenswood. Her remedies, drawn from the forest's depths, were both revered and feared. She was the town's savior in sickness, but her strange knowledge and solitary life sparked suspicion. When a string of children disappeared without a trace, suspicion turned to rage. Accusations of witchcraft grew louder until a mob, driven by fear and desperation, dragged her to the square. Bound to a stake, she stared into the eyes of her accusers. As the flames consumed her, Mary screamed a curse, "Call my name, and you shall see my wrath." Her words were forgotten by some, but never by Ravenswood. The legend of Bloody Mary evolved into a dark game. Children dared each other to stand before a mirror at midnight, candle in hand, and chant her name 3 times. Most dismissed it as a silly ritual. That is, until someone didn't return. Eleanor, a shy girl with a fascination for the paranormal, was dared by her older brother Daniel to try the ritual. Determined to prove her bravery, she gathered with her friends in an abandoned mansion on the edge of town. The mansion's crumbling walls and shattered windows seemed to breathe with the night's chill. A single, cracked mirror stood in the attic, its surface smeared with grime and dust that whispered of old horrors. Holding the candle, Eleanor took a deep breath. Her friend's nervous laughter died as she stepped forward. The air grew heavier, as if the house itself was holding its breath. She began the chant, "Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary." The candle's flame flickered violently, and an icy breeze swept through the room. The mirror rippled like water disturbed by an unseen force. Then it came. A grotesque figure emerged, hollow eyes burning with malice, blood-stained gown clinging to its skeletal frame, and a twisted smile that froze Eleanor in place. Her scream echoed through the mansion as the figure lunged. The group scattered, fleeing blindly through the darkened halls. When they reached safety, Eleanor was nowhere to be found. The next morning, the townsfolk found no trace of her in the mansion, only the mirror, now marked with a blood-red handprint. Years passed, and the mansion's tale became a warning, yet one Claire, a skeptical teenager, refused to believe. Claire was the kind to dismiss ghost stories as mere tricks of imagination. When her friends suggested they perform the ritual, she laughed. "It's just a mirror and an old myth," she said. "Let's prove it." With a steady hand, Claire lit the candle. "Ready?" she asked, though her friend's silence answered. Together they began the chant, "Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary." At first the room remained still, and Claire smirked. But then the temperature dropped, and the flame snuffed out. The mirror shimmered, revealing a shadowy figure stepping forward. It stopped at the edge of the glass, hollow eyes meeting Claire's. "Why have you summoned me?" The voice was a rasp, dripping with both fury and sorrow. Claire froze, her skepticism crumbling under the weight of the apparition's presence. She stammered an apology, but the figure leaned closer, its gaze penetrating. "They wronged me," it said, its voice trembling with pain. "Will you help me find peace?" Against her fear, something in Claire's chest stirred. Compassion. She nodded, her courage surprising even herself. The figure's menacing form seemed to waver, as if unsure whether to lash out or retreat. The group fled, but the question hung heavy in Claire's mind. Who was Mary, truly? And what had bound her to this endless torment? Driven by guilt and curiosity, Claire began to dig into the town's history. Ravenswood's records, yellowed and fragile, revealed secrets long buried. Mary Worthington had been a scapegoat, framed for the disappearances by a powerful townsman whose cruelty knew no bounds. The children had been hidden away, their fates sealed to cover his deeds. The mob's rage had been misdirected, their fear manipulated. Armed with this truth, Claire and her friends returned to the mansion. The air felt heavier than before. the walls pressing in as if warning them away. They stood before the mirror once more, their resolve tested. "Mary Worthington," Claire began, her voice steady, "we know the truth. You were wronged, and your name will no longer be cursed." The mirror rippled again, and Mary's apparition appeared, her form less grotesque but no less sorrowful. Tears glistened in her hollow eyes as Claire spoke the words of vindication. Slowly, Mary's twisted smile softened, and her body began to dissolve into light. As the apparition faded, the mansion seemed to exhale, its oppressive weight lifting. The mirror, once a gateway to fear, now reflected only their relieved faces. The curse was broken. The legend of Bloody Mary lived on, but its meaning had changed. It became a story of injustice and redemption, a reminder that fear and ignorance can create monsters, but truth and courage can lay them to rest.